Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled I'll Take This. Just today, my wife and I were out window shopping for garden plants, flowers for planting next week. It's going to freeze this weekend, early next week, so we're waiting that out to put plants in the ground so they don't get burned. While walking through the outdoor section of a local garden store, my wife walked off to look at a different row of plants. I was browsing for a climbing plant when an older lady steps into the row and looks directly at me. She's holding an oversized garden bag and saying something to me. I can't really make out what she said, so I walk closer to her with a smile and say, "What was that?" "I'll take this," she says, gesturing towards me with the oversized lawn bag. My smile widens. "That's great. Where you talkin' it?" She falters as I watch her mentally process my response, still smiling. I see the hamster finally get off the wheel. "Oh, you don't work here?" I chuckle, "No ma'am," with a warm smile. "You could have told me that." Getting over her mild embarrassment, she ended with, "You just look like you know what you're doing." She's not wrong. I grew up on a farm, ranch and feel very at home in places like these. "Yes ma'am, I do. Have a great day," I said as she shuffled off, oversized bag clutched under her arm. The next story is titled I called Roadside Assistance today. I blew out a tire while driving this afternoon. Pulled off the busy road to a side street to assess the damage and start work on replacing the flat with the spare from the trunk. It turned out that the lug wrench provided in this car was tiny, and thus provided very little leverage. Try as I might, I only managed to loosen one of the 5 lug nuts holding the tire on. No problem, I thought, as I have roadside assistance coverage on my auto insurance. A short call later, my insurance has dispatched a local service provider and I receive a text stating that, "Daryl, from the local provider will be arriving at my location by 2:34 p.m. That's less than a half-hour wait, so I'm happy. At 2:33 p.m. a van approaches, the driver waves at me and pulls over. Driver immediately hops out with a toolkit in hand. We exchange brief pleasantries and I explain my problem. Driver smiles and tells me the same thing happened to him last month and says not to worry about it. He takes out a proper wrench, I hand him the jack, spare and he have my car back in operation in about 6 minutes flat. It was at this point when the conversation got a bit muddled. I ask him if he needs anything from me, like a signature, to ensure he gets paid. He responds that no money is necessary. I try to clarify my question and explain that I have roadside assistance on my policy, and that my insurer got him dispatched to me and that I think they will pay his employer for the service call. His response? "Oh, no one dispatched me. I was just driving by and thought that you could use some help." "So, you're not Daryl?" "Nope, Brian. I can't believe that I handed this guy my jack and just watched him crank up my car while lying on the frozen pavement. I don't even remember how many times I apologized. Guy wouldn't even let me hand him some cash. He just left, in full cheer, and told me to pay it forward." Aftermath. I waited another 10 minutes for Daryl but gave up and left after finding his employer's phone number and canceling the help request. My insurer had been sending me automated texts all day, along the lines of, "Has your service provider arrived yet?" Reply. "Why? If yes, and if no, has your service been completed yet? And, how likely are you to recommend this service provider from 1 to 10? I can't figure out how to respond in such a way that no one gets in trouble or underpaid. Anyway, thanks Brian. The next story is titled Ma'am I'm 11. This happened some time ago. I was 11 years male, trans. In my small town we have a small grocery store. I had gone there multiple times before to get energy drinks and sometimes food. I was there to get an energy drink when in the middle of choosing a drink I heard a ahem, in a way that sounded like, "I need your attention right now." I turned around to see a middle-aged woman standing behind me. I say, "Oh sorry, am I in your way?" Thinking she had wanted a drink too. Oh, how I was wrong. She then said in a harsh tone, "I need help looking for the mouthwash." Since I had only gone there for drinks and food I did not know where the mouthwash was. I had then said, "Sorry ma'am, I don't know where that is." Then in a harsher tone than before she almost yelled, "You should know where the item is if you're going to be working here." I then say, "Ma'am I don't," but I was cut off by her ranting about how I should know. what my job offered, and how the customer was always right. Some people managed to hear the misunderstanding and were now looking our way. Me being the nervous child I was did not like this attention, so I grabbed my drink and started walking to the checkout. But no, I got heels back by my arm. She then says, "Where do you think you're going?" At this point I'm fed up and shout, "Ma'am, I am 11. I am not even allowed to be working here." Then I pulled my arm away and went to the checkout almost crying, from the attention. I looked back before paying and the look on that woman's face was priceless. It was a look of it I just screamed at a child, and, oh crap. I will never forget that day. The next story is titled EP is entitled To My Driveway. This happened a while ago, but reading some of these posts made me remember. Cast. Me, Lamois. M, entitled Karen. N, entitled Neighbor, also a Karen. I had a late class in uni, and needed to head out around 4 p.m. to make it on time. I had returned from walking my dog at about 3 p.m., only to find a car parked across the front of my driveway. The car was on the road, but fully blocked my entire driveway, which means that there was no way for me to back out of my garage. My house was on a small cul-de-sac in one of those massive cookie-cutter communities. It wasn't a main street, and there was absolutely no way anyone could have mistaken it for a parking spot. Me. Excuse me ladies, do either of you happen to know who this car belongs to? N. Gives me the idioty stink eye, then turns back to M to keep talking. M. That's my car. Me. Well, would you please move it, you are blocking my driveway. M. I'm almost done, I'll move it when I leave. Turns back to her conversation and proceeds to ignore me. I'm annoyed at this point, but needed to take a shower anyway, so headed inside to get ready to go. I was ready at about 3:45 p.m., got in my car, opened the garage door, proceeded to start backing out when the car is still blocking my driveway. I stopped, got out, and sure enough N and M are still having their Karen conversation. Me. Ladies, I asked you earlier to please move your car, you are blocking my driveway. M. Don't you interrupt, grown-ups are talking. Me. Surprised by the outburst and confused about why this is an issue in the first place. I asked you nearly an hour ago. This is not your driveway, you are illegally parked and I need you to move immediately. M. We are adults, and you are interrupting. I will move when I am good and ready. Stop being rude and mind your place. I am fairly patient, but that's about run out at this point. I start screaming and yelling expletives, tell her to get her crap box away from my car and get her fat ass out of my way. It took a good 5 minutes of sustained screaming for her to basically give up on continuing her conversation. She moved her car more to get me to shut up than because she actually thought she had any need to move. M. You know you should be ashamed of yourself. This is not how you talk to adults. Show some respect. N. Really, behavior like this is just not acceptable. Me. STFUN, you allowed your hippo friends to block my driveway, I was courteous, and asked you nicely to move. I could have just called the police and have them deal with you. But you idiotes responded like I was the bad guy for asking you and your friends stop trespassing on my property. I finally headed off to school. The part about this that I found so utterly insane was that, 1. I am not a child. 2. I owned that house. 3. What was the issue with moving the car in the first place? Some people, I just don't get. Clarifications. Thanks for the sliver. My car was also a crap box, college student, or I probably would have leaned on my horn to get her to move. Unfortunately, my horn had apparently run out of air, didn't know that was a thing, and would make a hoarse screeching noise before running out of wind and making hissing sounds. Also, I liked my other neighbors, so wasn't going to disrupt their afternoons with that. I agree with suggestions to have called the police right away. It would probably have sped this process up. Unfortunately, I tried the neighborly route first, and didn't have time to wait for cops to show up and tow anymore. Thankfully, I don't even live in this state anymore, so I now have all new awesome neighbors to contend with. The next story is titled Why Are You Speaking So Loud to Me? So there I was, at this hardware store I rarely shopped at, to get something to finish a project for my home shop. I was wearing a Harley t-shirt, Harley ball cap, hair in a ponytail, with flip-flops. I had called ahead to see if they had the item I needed, and was even told what aisle it was in. It was straight down from the checkout register. They had 2 different brand items, and I was down on one knee reading the box labels when this hand grabs my shoulder and the voice of a Kevin demands, "Where is odd item 1? I said, "Don't know. I don't work here." Find an employee, and don't touch me again. He grabs my shoulder again and demands, where is odd item 2? Don't know, I don't work here. Find an employee and do not touch me again. Once more my shoulder is grabbed, and the voice, more irritated now, demands, where is odd item 3? Don't know, I don't work here. Find an employee, and do not touch me again. Once more, the shoulder grab. In a very irritated voice, where is odd item 4, and why were you speaking so loud? I rose to my feet, and put on what my, now late, wife called my, resting bastard, face that she thought made me look kinda scary. I am not tall, but am stocky. I probably had 50 pounds on the idiot. I said, I thought maybe you were deaf as well as being stupid. The Kevin stepped back, maybe in shock, and reached out his hand. I said calmly, I told you 3 times I don't work here, and not to touch me. If that hand touches me I will break it. The Kevin gave me a horrified look, scurried off, and I took my item up front to pay for. I just wanted out of there at that point. The checkout girl told me that guy caused problems every time he came in, and she had called the owner to come up front and 86 him. The next story is titled Lady Thought I Worked at the Museum, but I'm 10. Okay, I had forgotten all about this, and not sure if this does belong here, but my mom brought this up yesterday and I thought it would be a good story to share. A wholesome one. When I was a kid, I used to be really into dinosaurs. Like really into them, knowing almost everything about my favorite ones and had hopes of becoming a paleontologist. And yes, Jurassic Park, the first film, is still one of my favorite movies, right next to The Ballad of Big Al. Yep, I'm a nerd. Anyway. When I was a kid, we went to visit my grandparents in another state and Grandma mentioned that a new museum had just opened near the city, and Mom and Dad thought, why not? I was excited. My sister was okay with it since we were going to her favorite shop afterward. Now keep in mind, I'm 10 yo girl, over 5 feet, and a bit babyface still. Also, the museum employees were in safari-style clothes. I remember that well because I thought they looked cool and like real paleontologists. I don't remember what I was wearing, but Mom said they were just plain clothes. The museum was awesome. They had real skeletons beside a painted version of the dinosaur on the wall and loads of information on each fossil and skeleton. I stood beside this kid younger than me and he was confused about this one pterosaur skeleton above us and he asks his mom what that bird was. When she didn't know, I tell him all about this little pterosaur and what they liked to eat, that they had feathers, their wing membrane being similar to bats, etc. You would have thought that I had told him all the secrets of the world with how wide his eyes were and this look of awe plastered on his face. He and I chatted for a long time as we walked around the museum and I answered all the questions he had about them. After a while, the mom said, wow, you know these creatures well. Thank you for taking the time to give us a tour. I smiled before Mom called me over and we went into the shop to look at the dino stuff they had. I vaguely remember this, but Mom helped to fill me in. She has a sharper memory than I do. According to Mom, the lady was checking out with her son and she started talking about me and how well I knew all about my job, saying that her son had so much fun and asked if the manager could give me a raise. The cashier asks who I was and after she described me, the cashier was confused. That's when Mom stepped in and explained that I don't work here, since I'm 10, but that I just love dinosaurs and love talking about them to anyone who wants to hear. The lady seemed embarrassed, but she was thankful to me nonetheless and asked my mom to tell me that for her, I was busy looking through the toys and wasn't listening to them. Her son waved goodbye to me as they walked out, and I waved back. Mom told me how proud she was and that I made a little boy's day. I left with a big smile and a stuffed velociraptor to commemorate the occasion. The next story is titled Nice Guy Helps Out Little Me. This isn't one of those Karen screamed and hit stories, but seeing nice ones like these always make me happy, so I thought I'd include my own. In this story, I was actually the perpetrator. I was at Walmart with my fiancé, and he had abandoned ship to go check out the clearance section while I started shopping, a regular occurrence. He still wasn't back once I got to the waters, and the bottles he likes are always on the top shelf. I'm 5'0", so I would either have to wait, or ask the only other people on this aisle. It was a couple speaking Spanish, and I very shyly asked, "Excuse me?" The guy turned around and kindly said, "Sorry, no English." Now, I'd learned a tiny bit of Spanish at prior jobs, mostly hotel and restaurant related words, but I was able to very clumsily ask him, "Tu no trabajo aquí, but yo necesito agua por favor." You don't work here, but I need water please. Yes, I know my grammar was horrendous, but I tried my best. The guy grabbed the waters on the top and complimented my Spanish, and we both went on our ways. My fiancé still had to go back because I didn't realize the multi-packs are smaller than the single ones, but I still appreciated both the guy that helped me, and the opportunity to practice speaking Spanish outside of workspace. The next story is titled How I Met My Stepmom. Background. I work as a security guard, you will see why I say this later, and this weekend just gone I had to drive 9 hours from where I live to attend my uncle's funeral. I lost contact with most of that side of my family over 25 years ago. I got to the funeral's location a few hours early and ended up hanging around outside hoping I would recognize someone. Around 15 minutes before it was due to start I walked onto the property and went and stood near the door to the chapel. So I'm standing there in my black suit with my face mask on, and this lady comes up to me, and says, "Sorry, but are you the security guard checking the vaccine pass scan things?" To which I replied, "No sorry, I'm here for the funeral." She then asked who he, my dead uncle, was to me, and I told her he was my uncle, and she asked, "So what would your name be then?" And I told her. She got this extremely surprised look on her face and started saying, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm your stepmom," and then latched onto me hugging me with tears in her eyes. I'm half wondering to myself, WTF, you're hugging me and I have no idea who the hell you are. But let it go. After a few minutes of this she pulls away smiling. And that is how I met the lady that my DNA donor left my mother for the first time. As a little side note not to do with the IDWHL part, after chatting for a few minutes she told me my dad was here and took me over to him. When we got to him, she said, "Look who I found," and I reached out to shake his hand saying, "Hello Peter. Long time no see." He took my head shaking it saying, "Yeah, and no," with a confused look on his face. My stepmom then said, "You don't recognize him, do you? You don't even recognize your own son." I think I was around 19 to 20 last time I saw him, and that was the first time since I was about 7 to 8, and I'm now in my mid-30s, so I can't really blame him for not recognizing me. I only just recognized him myself. Hope you enjoyed. My family got a lot of laughs during that tough time thanks to my DNA donor not recognizing me, and I got to reconnect with some cousins and an uncle I haven't seen since I was a young child, and probably got one of the best compliments of my professional career when most of the family attending told me they mistook me for the funeral home security guard. The next story is titled I'm Not a Fitting Room Attendant. Funny story from my recent trip to the Bullseye store. I wanted to try on a few things tonight, and when I got to the fitting rooms, the whole place was a disaster area. Clothes piled all over the waiting area chairs. Clothes piled on the return carts, and worst of all, clothes piled up in both the open fitting rooms. I wanted space to put my own clothes, so I started clearing out one of the rooms, including a whole armful of clothes that was on the stool. As I was hauling the armload of discarded items out, a lady comes in and started asking me if she needed to check in or something. Remember when they used to give you a little plastic tag with your number of items to hang on the door? I laughed and said, "Oh, I don't work here, I just wanted to make some space." Lady: "Oh, I guess we just go on in, huh?" "Yep. And I guess we have to clean out other people's stuff too." This was said pointedly, since there were 2 employees chatting in the attendant booth. Lady: "You were just doing such a good job, I assumed you worked here." If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.